Three, two, one. Perry Shaw, thanks for
What's up,
coming on
man?
today. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Glad to
Oh,
be here. Glad to have a conversation with you.
awesome, man. It's fun. So you had to push the meeting. I think it was a little bit um, later in the day because of a shipment, or is that about to happen?
Yeah, I've got a load of super beautiful maple coming probably in an hour. It's coming from an island right off the Salish Sea. So it's spalted and just man, it's some cool stuff.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah,
So
man.
where on earth do
Uh,
you source that?
you know what? All over. I go to Facebook Marketplace,
Nice.
and what people consider firewood. You know
Yep.
that's beauty to me. So I get most of it there, and then through my wood turning club we get a ton as well.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. Well, to give everyone some context, Perry, you are a wood turning artist. You are a professional. You're in business as well, right? Can you explain a little bit about what you do in terms of work, and then maybe talk a little bit about maybe what possessed you to start turning, maybe some important events regarding your inspiration for it, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, thanks for this opportunity.
Yeah.
So what I do during my 9 to 5 is I work in healthcare, and my primary role is I work in leadership. So I've got teams of right now I've got 6 teams of frontline nurses that work with members on the phone, helping them navigate the healthcare system. So it's Medicare membership.
Right.
I lead their leader. So often what I'm doing is working on strategy, helping align all of us on the same vision, and that type of thing. So I say that to say this: much of my day is sitting in meetings and kind of thinking a lot, like thinking
Right.
5 years down the road or 10 years down the road.
Right.
And so my wood turning actually is pretty therapeutic, because it's feel and it's touch and it's smell. But the way I came to wood turning was just by happenstance. And I think that's probably how many people find their passions. I was, it was 2017 was the year before I started wood turning. And it was a year my company was going through some organizational change. And much of that organizational change had to do with reduction in workforce. Our strategy was changing a bit. And we went through like 7 rounds of workforce reduction. And, being part of that was incredibly difficult, certainly difficult for the people who were losing their jobs, but also difficult to kind of help people understand why we were changing course and why their roles were being impacted. A lot of my work too was trying to figure out ways to get them in different roles within the same organization so that their livelihood was protected. But it was such a stressful year that towards the end of it, I said to myself, hey, I need to get out of my own head. I need to figure out something that allows me to replenish and do so consistently. So, one night I was on YouTube, trolling around, and I saw this guy turning a wood bowl. And I was like, wow, that is super cool. And, the fact that it started with this like lump of degenerate wood, is what I was thinking at the time, turned into something useful and beautiful. And in fact, it wasn't going to go into the chipper. So it kind of hit on a couple things that I'm passionate about. I love trees anyway. And man, we could go down a whole journey talking about trees, but you
Love
know,
it.
so I saw that, and I think it kind of like left some sort of impression in my mind. But I kept rocking. You know, life kept going, and simultaneous to that, my dad had to retire because he had to get his knees replaced. My dad's a master carpenter, and I saw him really just kind of sitting in his chair, rotting away. Just to be real, you know, just probably depressed because he, you know, purpose. I think he was struggling with purpose at that point. So, you know, one day I said, Dad, let's get you out of this chair. You're going to die in this chair if you keep sitting here. Let's set you up with a workshop. And you know, he was recovering by that point. So went to all these garage sales, got him a ton of tools, and one of them was a lathe. Had no clue what a lathe was. And for those in the audience, a lathe it's a machine that if you mount wood to it, it spins it really quick, and you can shape wood into vessels and bowls and that type of thing. Well, so we got this machine, and it was sitting in the back of his shop for a couple of months. And one day in January 13th, 2018, I got off work. Mind you, it was coming off a really difficult year. I got off work and found him in his shop, and I said, "Hey, Dad, what are you working on?" And he was telling me what he was doing, and I looked over and I saw the lathe, and I said, "Dad, what is that thing? It's just been sitting there." And he goes, "Well, you know, you put wood on it and it spins, and you can turn it into stuff, you know, like table legs and this and that." And I said, "My man, let's strap some wood on that thing. Let's see what's up." And so we did, and I grinded through this bowl and turned it into something that was pretty nasty. But from that day on, I was like, I said, you know what? I love this. And so that's kind of how I started.
Wow.
Does that answer your question?
Very, very well. Did you, well, so on that topic of upbringing, well, your dad and his health decline, was he a creative person? I mean, obviously, if he was doing carpentry, he was working with wood. Did he have any creative outlets, or your mother, or was there dormant creativity as a part of your nurturing, or rather dormant creativity in your parents that wasn't accessed, or was it a nurturing for you, a creative thing that your parents did?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's texture to that question. So my dad, we were born into, you know, a family that didn't have much money. So my dad, he worked 15 hours a day, and you know, I think he's a naturally creative guy, but I think his creativity was set aside just to make ends meet. So, but one thing that my dad did do is in 8th grade, we decided to build a house, and he built it from floor to ceiling, and I did that with him one summer. And you know, I basically carried the nail bag, just to be real.
Yeah.
But
been there.
You know, yeah.
So happened
but
with
what
this
I
place.
saw. Say that again.
So that's what happened with this place. I carried the nail bag.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I saw the creative process take place, and it left an indelible mark. Watching him take something from dirt to a home that we lived in, and they still live in it today, you know, all these years later, that was powerful. My mom is creative in a different way. She's really good with words and language and singing and that type of thing, whereas my dad's more, he's less articulate with words, but he's much more hands-on. So maybe I got a little bit of both.
Right. I can see that. Yeah. So then you always considered yourself creative, or was there a moment where you started to identify as creative, if not always?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, my aspiration was to live on an island and be a writer. I wanted to be a writer.
Wow.
And so I was always kind of writing little things here and there. And so when I think about creativity, it probably started then, but it was more cognitive, right? But as I grew into adulthood, remembering back to my dad, fixing that house or building the house, I moved out to California for grad school and from Florida. And I had started to buy these decrepit old bungalows, these houses from the 20s that were falling apart. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I decided that they needed to be saved, period. So in order for them to be saved, I had to figure out how to do that and do it without much money.
Right.
So, I started to buy books. And at the time, I don't even know if YouTube was around, to be frank, but I was buying books and figuring out how to not only make these houses historically correct and on point and 100% on point, but also to build furniture to go into these homes. So I was doing a lot of mission style furniture, some green and green type of stuff, chairs, cabinets, that type of thing. And man, Alec, I was doing it in a garage that had basically a table saw and hand saws. That's what I was doing. Wow. But so my thing is always, if you want to do something, figure out how to do it. And because I was busy, I was in grad school at the time. I was working full time. I had to do much of my work in the middle of the night. So I've been operating on like 4 hours of sleep my whole life, my whole adult life. But you can maximize your time with little rest.
Right. Yeah, and I think maybe some people are endowed with the gift of operating on less sleep.
Yeah, let me ask you this. How do you do with sleep? Do you need rest or how do you replenish?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, as I've gotten into my later 20s, I'm actually verging my later 20s. I've noticed I need less. I used to need, 7 or 8, and now I can get by on maybe 6 or 7. And I feel pretty good.
Yeah, man.
So, but no, for sure, it's definitely something that I'd like to get more, but I don't know about you, but getting to bed early seems to be more and more challenging, especially when you're in a relationship and you're long distance like I am right now. And not to go, I digress, but yeah, it is. Staying up late is it's something I just do now. So, but so on the topic of back to kind of turning, when you were introduced to turning, what would be some advice that you wished you had received originally starting out? Like what if someone could tell you something in a few phrases, or what would that ideal mentor look like for you?
Yeah. I love that question. Always learning. What I would recommend is finding someone who can mentor you straight away. Identify something you want to do, but find someone who already does it well, right, and narrow your focus to really understanding the why behind their work, right? I think if we can understand the why in life in general, right, then we can wrap the tools, our physical tools around the why and then move forward. I didn't even meet another woodturner in real life for like the first 2 years. And I've only been woodturning a little over 3 years. So, I was truly trying to figure things out on my own. And I watch YouTube a lot, but, there's good and bad on YouTube. And that's having that mentor can help you move through some of those poor habits that you can develop because you're figuring it out on your own.
Right.
Find a mentor. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what people often lose in the word mentorship, or I think that they misidentify what that word means. Sometimes it can mean a person who you've seen online. In your case, it was YouTube. And actually in my case too, it was a guy named Ron Adamson who posted these videos about carving faces in cottonwood bark. And
Yeah.
the guy didn't know I existed for like 5 or 6 years, or probably longer, probably 10 years. And he absolutely mentored me in a large way. So you don't always have to. That's the power of the internet, is you can have a virtual mentor. It can be a one-sided mentorship, but having a real person, is super helpful. And one thing that I find interesting about mentorship too is that it's actually, I think it was a story about Ben Franklin. I can't remember what the scenario was, but he was contending with someone and found out his favorite book and asked to borrow the book, set the book on his shelf, didn't read it, and gave it back to him in 2 weeks. And something about the psychology of the guy saying yes to Ben Franklin, giving him his favorite prized, apparently collectible book, it actually made the guy think more positively about Ben Franklin. And ultimately the moral of the story is that we become indebted to people who we mentor psychologically in a way that endears us to them. And we want to see the outcome for them. And in fact, it's the opposite of what you'd think. You'd think it would be, you're investing all this time in this person and you grow slowly embittered by the fact that you're giving them free counseling. But the reality is you actually grow attached to the person who you're giving counsel and advice to. I imagine.
Yeah,
so,
you start rooting them on, right? I mean, you want people to succeed. It's interesting you say that. There's two thoughts that come to mind. One is a theme that is central to my life, and that's grow self, grow others. Grow self, grow others. So constantly be learning and constantly be helping others, because when we think about a life well lived, it's a life where we're giving, because within that gift, you're right, that connects and binds people to each other. And if we're always looking in ways to grow others, we're lifting our community up. And to your earlier point, and probably the second thing, is the power of the internet is incredible. Instagram has been a truly incredible mechanism to connect with others. I met you through Instagram. I've met thousands of other woodturners and woodworkers and carvers, and they've changed my life for the better. And hopefully, over time, maybe I've built some relationships and I've done the same for them. But we're constantly mentoring each other if we allow it. And I love what you said there.
Yeah, and you do it really well with Instagram. Not to butter your bread too much, but you have a sizable following there. And I would say probably conservatively 90% of what you post or more on your stories are other people's work. And congratulating, in a genuine way, congratulating them for what they're doing. And you've kind of created a platform to share other people's work as well as your own. And that to me is a representation of what you're talking about, is, basically growing self and growing others. Most people take an attitude of self-preservation in the art world, and how much more fun it must be to share other people's work instead of just your own, and to make people feel good.
Oh man. So there's a word, and I'm going to butcher the word, but it's mudita, M-U-D-I-T-A, mudita. And really what it means is to celebrate someone else's success. And, I bumped into that word maybe 20 years ago, and it always kind of percolated in the background of, lift people up, find their small successes that they've been striving for, and point it out, because ultimately we elevate each other, and we can inspire each other to kind of, the world is what we make of it. And what I mean by that is my world is always feels positive. because I'm surrounding myself with people that I care about, people I'm trying to lift up, and consequently they lift me up. A lot of times, I'm posting other people's work because I want people to see it. I also want those people to know, hey, I see you. I see you out there, and keep doing what you're doing, because it's effective, and it makes life richer as a result. But mudita, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's been a powerful word.
I'm writing that down. What pisses you off?
Complacency. People who, and that's an easy answer. People who wake up dreading the day, drag themselves through the day or not. People who are finding ways to not use the precious little time that we have on this planet to do something. So when people are complacent, automatically, and I may even say it to them, because I feel like we need to challenge each other to constantly be better. But if someone's complacent, I'll say, hey, don't waste your precious time on this earth, because we don't have a lot of it. We don't. So let's use it.
So good.
What about you? I'm kind of curious. That's a good question.
That actually, not to totally pirate your thought there, but yeah, that absolutely relates to me. It's actually pretty relevant. My girlfriend and I had this conversation 2 weeks ago. She said that she's going to attempt to live without complaining at all. And
yep.
It was such a cool exercise, and to see how positive, she's already a very positive person, but to see how it affected the quality of our relationship and conversation. And I joshed with her the other day because she complained about winter, and and I brought it up. We talked for another hour, and then right before we got off the phone, it was midnight, and I was like, so are you kind of giving up on the no complaining rule? I hope she doesn't mind I'm throwing her under the bus here, but no, to her credit, she was like, I guess I did complain, didn't I? And to her, that night she sent me a message with a list of things that she likes about winter. And
see, I love that.
Just thought, what an awesome idea. So
Alec, let me ask you a question. The no complaining rule, that's a book. There's an actual book called that. Is that where she got that idea?
I don't know. I didn't know of the book.
Yeah, it's a book. It's kind of like a leadership, but the long and the short of it is there's great life lessons. There's another book that's kind of resonating within our conversation here. It's called Choice Theory. And really what your girlfriend, who sounds wonderful, by the way, choice theory is everything we do starts with a choice. And that's what she did, right? She chose to frame her mind to say, you know what? I'm not going to complain. I can recognize things, but here's where I'm going to hone my focus. And I bet you her life is pretty satisfying.
Yeah, no, it's huge, man. I mean, it's infectious too. I noticed myself being more cautious around her and applying the rule without, any agreement, with her, just starting to do it, just starting to complain less.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. So how would you define success for yourself then? And I know it's a broad term, and so I guess it's intentionally broad so you can kind of take it where you will. But like for yourself, when you think about success, or for others, what does that look like?
Yeah. So success, my view on success is, am I living an authentic life? Is what I am doing authentic? And within that authenticity, am I being a good partner to my wife? Am I being a dad that cares about my kids and lets them know that every chance I get? At work, am I bringing meaningful conversations and meaningful leadership to my teams? In the world of art, am I being authentic in the way that I live my own vision, and in the way that I bring and pull folks close to me? You know, within that, none of what you heard was accolades or financial means or anything like that. In fact, I worked in hospice for about a decade, and what I found was that the people who society may perceive as most successful, they were actually some of the most impoverished individuals at the end of their life. And you know, so their success, because they were focused on a narrow view of success being financial gain, sometimes at other people's expense, their end of life was devoid of relationships, which means devoid of support, necessary support that they needed at that point in their life, but they never attended to that. So, you know, I'm always kind of thinking of, you know, the future. I'm kind of a futurist. And the future I want to always be creating is one that is about we. It's always about we. And I can only achieve that if I'm authentic. So if I can be authentic, then I'm successful. Does that make sense?
Makes so much sense. So much sense. And to jump kind of onto the previous topic and combine these two, are there any books that you'd recommend that guided you in this sort of thought process about success, or books that you might recommend or give to other people?
You know, I love books. In fact, I didn't have a TV for about 10 years. And I had a whole library in my house, and that's where I was all the time. So I think books are important. If I could synthesize my experience with the written word, I think I would narrow it down to an essay by Henry David Thoreau, and it was Life Without Principle. That essay, Life Without Principle, I read it 25 years ago, and I've carried it with me, and it's become part of my worldview. And it probably was before, that's why it resonated so deeply. But that essay was so utterly powerful that I could literally kind of talk about it each day in different scenarios, and it would always be refreshed. So Life Without Principle by Henry David Thoreau.
Life Without Principle. I jotted it down. Really good. On a less intense or serious note, what is your favorite pizza topping?
Oh man! So my boys love cheese pizza. My daughter, pizza's a favorite of my daughter too. You know what? I love like a Chicago style pizza that's stuffed, right? So it's like a pie. And you put everything in there. Hold the anchovies, but you put the whole kitchen sink in there, and I'm on it. Throw all the meat, all the cheeses. That's mine. What about yours?
For me, it's either pineapple and ham or pineapple and bacon. That's the one.
What is it about that? Is it the juxtaposition of the sweetness and the robust, or what?
Yeah, you've got the sweet sour of the pineapple, the salty, savory of the bacon, and shows up on the pizza, and I'm in. I just absolutely
it's
love
all about the sauce too, right?
The sauce, yeah, the sauce is important. And I guess if you had that style of pizza with too much sauce, it might throw you off a little bit. Might not be right.
Yep.
If you like a little bit of a drier pizza, you've got cheese, you've got bacon, and pineapple, and that's my pizza nirvana.
That's balance right there.
Yeah, pizza yin yang. So what about purchases under $100? And I'm blatantly stealing this one from Tim Ferriss. But I love this question because I'm going to butcher the quote. I'm not even sure whose quote it is, but you can tell a lot about a person by how they spend money. And so I pose it, and you can take a second to think about it, because I haven't given you very much time to prepare at all. But if you could think of one, what is the best purchase that you've made under $100?
I don't spend a lot of money. I'm kind of a no frills type of guy. But in my wood turning life, it would probably be, it'd probably be one of my tools. So in wood turning, this is a crown gouge, and it's a piece of steel that is essentially sharpened, and this is what I make my work, my pieces are.
Right.
So, it's a long cylindrical dagger type thing, but
it's a long boy.
It's not an expensive thing. What I look for is quality, and oftentimes, quality isn't, well, sometimes it is, but it's not always aligned with cost. So, I ordered these gouges, and they're like $69 or something like that, and you can spend a couple $100 on gouges, and the steel quality is may vary, but that's the best purchase period for under $100 for me, no doubt.
Wow. Can you say the maker of the gouge so people know?
Yeah, it's Crown.
That's right, you did say it.
Yep, Crown Tools. They're out of Sheffield, England, and
yep,
just phenomenal.
Sheffield steel, man. That's where it's at.
Exactly. Yep,
yeah.
Exactly. Wait a minute. Let me ask you a question. So, in your carving, where do your tools come from?
Yeah, it's a combination of tools that are made in Austria, in Germany, a lot of Swiss-made tools. So those tools are respectively two cherries, Stubai, S-T-U-B-A-I, Swiss-made or file, and probably the tools I have the most of are, believe it or not, Sheffield steel. They're very old steel, made by a company called Addis & Co. And these are pre, kind of, some of them you're seeing here, Civil War era tools made in England. So like early 1800s to mid 1800s. And then the Sons bought out the company, and they became Addis and Sons, and they are great tools as well. Not quite as esteemed or held in a high regard as the father's tools, but I have a bunch of them, and they hold an edge really well. And I mean, obviously they've been around for 200 plus years, so they're doing something right. But
yeah, they figured it out.
yeah. So I guess apparently Addis & Co. started the whole thing of Sheffield steel. That is part of the reason that Sheffield steel is viewed as really high quality. It's because of so a prize they won at the World Fair, and they actually stamped all of their tools after winning the prize for their tools with prize medal, award winning. So you can see, actually probably won't be able to see it here, but prize medals.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is an early Addis & Co. Knife. Actually, that would have been post Addis & Co. It's Addis & Sons. So the Sons, they smartly marketed their word there. What would you?
I should probably learn.
Yeah, go ahead.
I should probably learn from those guys. I don't sign any of my stuff.
Really?
Never. And it may just be a principle thing, but I want the wood to be the thing. So I don't want to mar it up with my name. But
right.
Those guys clearly.
Yeah, I mean, I both get it, and I would both admonish, like encourage you to sign your work. but I also I sometimes feel the same way. Like, just let this thing be. Like, why do we, why do we have to let ego be involved? You know? It's,
Yeah, that's how I am. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't. It can just be beautiful unto itself. It doesn't have to be me. So.
yeah, and any potential for you to confuse the assessors on Antiques Roadshow in the future, it's gone if you sign it, you know, because then it's a piece of cake. Oh, it's signed and dated. It's it's a Perry Shaw. Yeah,
Yeah, they know. They know the mystery's gone.
That you'd never show up on that show. You'd be definitely in the cuts because that's kind of easy.
Right.
So, what advice would you give your 25-year-old self, or pick an age, like 20, 25, your young adult self? Anything come to mind?
Yeah. Lean in. I think and what I mean by that is, oftentimes we hold ourselves back. We hold ourselves back with self-doubt, or that self-talk that says, hey, you can't do this or whatever. And I've never had a ton of that, but I would tell that 25-year-old self, unbridle yourself with those types of thoughts and lean into those experiences, because being in the midst of discomfort, of not knowing what you're doing exactly, allows you to constantly stay invigorated. It allows you to constantly learn. But you know what? It also allows for partnerships to form, for people to come around and say, hey, can I help you? So I think it creates opportunities that otherwise wouldn't be there because you're holding back. So I would tell that guy, lean in and do so with vigor, because the world will be better as a result.
It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, engage. It reminds me of that idea of, if it's not a hell yes, then leave it aside. If it's not something that drives you, then it's probably not worthy of your time.
Yeah. I mean, life is a verb, right? You do life. Ideally, it goes back to that theme of complacency. People who are complacent, they're not actively participating in life.
Right.
They're passively participating. So you're right. Whatever you do, it's a verb. Right. Do it. Do it.
It's great. It's great. What is maybe a current, a time that you've laughed? And shout out, I'm also stealing this from another podcaster who I love, Pete Holmes, but hopefully he doesn't mind. But what is a time that you've laughed the hardest, if you can think of a time? And it doesn't have to be the hardest you've ever laughed. It can be a time where you remember, aching with laughter.
Yeah. You know what? I laugh a ton with my kids. Just watching their antics. My daughter, when she was growing up, I mean, she always had me kind of giggling. My sons are the same way. They're just like whirling dervishes. You know what I mean? So I laugh a lot there. I think, if it was an activity, it's wintertime, so it'll be a wintertime activity. When I was in college, I lived in Chicago, undergrad. I wrestled in college for a little while, and my buddy I didn't have money because I was putting myself through school, but we didn't have money to go like out and do activities, so we created our own. So we would jump out of third-story buildings into snow piles, and one day we were walking down the street, and he had this old van. I don't even know what kind of van it was, but there was like these trash cans that had been kicked over, and one of the trash can lids was massive. I don't even know why it was so big, but there was rope like piled up beside it, and we were walking back to our dorms, and I picked up this thing and I was using it like a shield, and we were pelting each other with snowballs, and I grabbed the rope too for some reason, and there was like this epiphany that I said, Josh, my man, let's fire up the van. And we skied, or I skied throughout that town on the back of his van, holding this rope on this gigantic trash can lid, and we did that for hours. And until the police officers pulled us aside and helped me realize the error of my ways. But man, I just was laughing the whole time. And
It's beautiful.
if we're thinking about pure laughter, it was probably one of those times. It was just unbridled joy.
It's amazing.
So
That's great.
what about you?
Me? My dad, brother, and I went to Midland, Michigan for a racing event. And my brother and dad both work on European sports cars. And so this was like a work event, and we, on the way there, stopped in this little town, and I can't remember the name of the town, but we decided to hit up a restaurant called La Playita, and we got in the restaurant, and we realized, of course we're going for Mexican food, but the aesthetic of the restaurant was country breakfast joint that hadn't yet been converted. So there was a mural of a farm, of a kind of a crudely done farm scene on the wall. And we sat down for our food, and our very white waitress asked us if we wanted salsa and chips. And it was at that moment we knew there's something up here. It's not quite right. So she brought us
like Bizarro.
Yeah, but it's probably fine. I mean, it's probably fine because you shouldn't judge. If anything, I've learned about restaurants from my dad that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Some of the best restaurants are restaurants where the it's a hole in the wall, effectively, right?
Right.
So we were trying to think best, but the first round of salsa and chips concerned us. It was
right.
it was impossibly tasteless. I've never since had salsa that tasted like this salsa, and I still to this day cannot venture to think of a place where you would buy such salsa that has absolutely no flavor whatsoever.
See, they were masterful at flavor removal.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's their niche.
It's like a flavor extraction method that I've never seen, but it was just like water, like orange, reddish tinted chunky water. And so we're still trying to remain positive. Of course, the waitress comes by, and my brother and I are already kind of experiencing the what I call church laughter, which is, you're not supposed to, so it makes it harder not to.
Right.
We order our food, and it gets around. My dad's comes first, and it's a Verdes enchilada. And normally with a Verdes enchilada, you got kind of like a green cream sauce, right? And this was a green tinted water. So you could actually, it was translucent. You could see through it to the bottom of the plate. And
like green dye almost, right?
Right, exactly. It looked like it had been tinted. Water had been tinted. And my brother gets the enchiladas, with the red sauce, and similar situation. I order the crunchy tacos. My tacos come, I pick up the taco, and water streams from the meat. Cold water streams from my chicken tacos. So at this point,
more than moist.
Yeah, it's not moist. It's think like canned chicken in water that hasn't been drained, or flavored. So at this point, Kenny and I are looking at my dad's expression, who is not finding this funny at all. He's just flatly disappointed. And juxtaposing this to the church feeling of, oh my gosh, the waitress keeps coming by because there's no one else in here. So she's come to check on us 4 or 5 times because she's bored, and dare I say a little bit kind of just, you know, you know. We just absolutely cried tears of laughter every time she came and asked us how our meal was. And I think it was the second or third time she came by to ask if everything was good and we were ready for our check. My dad said, no, to be honest, this wasn't good.
He had to level with her.
Right. I still admire that about him. But yeah, you know, I just can't begin to say how flavorless and cold everything was. But yeah, just that effect of not being able to laugh because you don't want to be rude to the waitress, you know, when she asks you how the food is.
It was that like pregnated moment, right, where you're just like dying to let it out, but but you can't. So it made it all the more funny.
Yeah, it was a degree of bad that was it seemed worse than intentional, right? It actually seemed as though, like I remember telling my brother, like if I woke up at 3 a.m. and made myself some Mexican food in the microwave, it would have been like a full order of magnitude better than that. Like it would have been 10 times better. So we just absolutely we could not keep it together. Between looking at the mural on the wall of the farmer with the pigs and the pitchforks, and the canned chicken, that was it. That's my story.
It was almost like they're number one at being the worst, right?
Yes. Yeah, and my brother actually texted me the business card, and my dad and I on the thread, a text thread the other day, but which isn't good for podcasts, but since we're on video, if I can find it, which I can't, which is probably for the best because I don't want to promote them. But yeah, this is it. Weberville.
Right.
So there we go. Weberville. La Playita, LLC.
LLC.
Yeah.
You know what? Thinking about that, not a whole lot of restaurants show LLC behind it, right? I mean, it's like, you know, maybe the yeah, that's kind of a weird thing to put on there. Huh.
So anyway, generous of you to turn the question back on me, but Perry, this has been fun. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for obliging and engaging. Is there anything else that you'd like to say or talk about? I'm open.
Oh man, I could probably talk forever. No, I just want to say thank you. You know, your work is inspiring, and I love seeing your craft play out or your art play out. And you know, it's just been cool to get to know you a little bit more through this conversation. So thanks a lot, Alec. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, appreciate you too, man. And check out Perry's work. Your Instagram handle, again, Shaw Studio, correct?
Yeah, it's studio_Shaw. But yeah, it's Shaw Studio. If you look that up, you'll probably find my stuff. Got it.
Very cool. It's incredible work, and I love seeing it, and I love seeing the stuff that you share. So thanks for doing this.
Thanks. Yeah, man. Thanks a lot.
That was so good.